Bienvenue au circuit Paul Ricard en direct de la France. Welcome everybody. It is Sunday night and we all know what that means. That's right, it is the Zoom Racing League Division 1, the last race before the holiday break here in Paul Ricard Circuit. The French Grand Prix held here for 27 laps is sure to offer us a fast-paced race, 3.6 miles per lap, with 15 corners, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. 2 DRS zones, one on the start-finish straight and one on the back straight with speeds exceeding 210 miles per hour. The qualifying is just getting underway here. I'm John Ranger in replacement for Buffalo Trace. In the booth with me is my fellow companion and rival in Division 3, Seb. Seb, welcome to the booth. I know we want to talk to us about the standings currently as qualifying is just getting underway. And as we could right away see, it is a great downpour. It's really damp out there.
Yeah, so if you look in the pit lane, we're not seeing a lot of puddles, so it's probably inters, but this means that the drivers are going to be going out immediately and making sure they make the most of the track, because it could be worsening from here. As it looks like Cal is retired from the session, but anyway, on to the standings. In first for the drivers, we have Hudson Poole. Of course, he's a decent lead over Marc-Olivier Bastien, but Baku, he had a DNF, so he's going to be looking to carry a bit more momentum through this weekend. And I think that this weekend is actually really important for all the drivers. Having a good result here and just carrying that momentum through over the break can be really important, just like it was in real life from Hungary to Belgium. And I mean, in the constructors, we have Aston Martin leading in D1, which is honestly kind of surprising, but Maxime and Aaron are proving themselves to be a really solid lineup here, so they'll be looking to extend that lead in the constructors championship or 4. And of course, Mercedes in 9th needs to make up more points. That is not the pedigree the team should be at.
Yeah, one of the top storylines here is the success Aston Martin is getting so far in Division 1. Last season, they lost Jeffrey Lawler in the draft to Ferrari. And we all wondered, how would they be faring in Division 1? But so far, I think Maxime Beaulieu has been doing a great performance. And Aaron Altmaier has increased dramatically his pace compared to last season. So it's a great storyline for these guys.
Yeah, so if you look out on track, looks like all the drivers coming out in the intermediates. We have a Mercedes the first one out. That's Luke, so he could actually be hitting the best lap time here if conditions continue to deteriorate throughout the session.
Yeah, so we've got 15 minutes for a short quali. You mentioned it earlier, Kyle Blevins immediately retired from the session. I'd have to go check my notes if that's due to a quali ban, but I'm not sure that was the case. Maxime Beaulieu is also retired. So we got 2 drivers who will be starting P19 and P18. We have a driver down on the grid so far. And currently all the drivers are on their outlap, and it is Luke Locklear who will be the first one to do the fast lap.
Yeah, so just checked the release from the FIA that Maxime and Cal are serving qualification bans today, so that is why we've seen those 2 retired. Yeah. And really, this is the track. I think the only track that's worse to not qualify is Monaco, because it is so difficult to follow in these cars around France. It's really not much better than it's been. The dirty air is very bad, and the grip is so on the edge that it really makes your lives difficult.
Yeah, most definitely. For Kyle and Maxime starting in the back of the grid here, as we're watching Luke Locklear begin his main lap here, I think being in the back of the grid isn't so bad, because all throughout this weekend, Division 4, Division 3, Division 2, there's been a lot of action happening in that first 2 corners at the chicane there. So if you're in the back of the grid and you're able to get past the chaos, you could gain a lot of positions right off of the beginning of the track.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but of course, Maxime and Cal are people with a lot of pace, and they'd gain a lot more time by starting in the first 2 rows and leading out from there.
Well, it's definitely be interesting to know if the rain is going to either increase or maybe settle down by the end of the qualifying. And how is it going to be also for the race? Because it's going to affect a lot the qualifying time to begin with, and the way the drivers decide on which setup they're going to run on.
Yeah, we're checking with our meteorologist as we speak to see what the weather is in the next sessions, but it's going to be very crucial here, especially if it's dry. A low aero is the play at France, so that could make this a very difficult session for the drivers. And yeah, from the Aston Martin pit wall, thank the Lord for Labib. It is going to be a dry race and full inters in quali. So
Wow.
Luke being the first man out on track as he comes around the final corner. It looks good on the final straight. This will be a crucial lap. This could be the best lap time we see if the track continues to deteriorate.
So he sets a 148 to begin with. We're going to have the Aston Martin, I believe, Aaron Altmaier, who's going to put a 141. So there's already a second difference between Locklear and Peter Giordano is going to get 2/10 quicker than Luke Locklear. And I think there is the reserve. Is that the Alpine?
Yeah, that looks like Helter. He
Yep.
does manage to go faster than Aaron, so looks like track development has not played a massive role yet. Of course, Pelter was significantly behind the rest of the drivers. But Eric McNerney does only put it 5th fastest, so we'll have to wait and see. But looks like the rain might not be heavy enough, and those inters might just be clearing enough water to make these lap times competitive throughout the session, which is good. Of course, we didn't see that in was it D2 last night?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, D2 last night had rain immediately, and the first people to set laps were the people that went that went fastest. So you saw a big mix-up with the grid. I think both Red Bulls were like 16th and 17th. So, and they're obviously drivers who have a lot of pace. So that just proves how much the rain could mix things up here.
It's going to be interesting to look at this so far. When we're looking at the grid as of now, the first 3 positions are all red. 2 Ferraris in P1 and P2 with Peter Giordano followed by Lewis Piper. And Marc-Olivier Bastien is in P3. So between positions 2 and 3, there's less than a 10th separating them. And then for the rest of the grid, it looks like it's a little bit more scattered.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, and I think the drivers are going to have to give a lot more here. But what's interesting is, to me, this could indicate that those people up at the front might be running higher downforce than drivers on the rest of the grid, because of course that's very crucial in the race. You don't want to be a sitting duck on the insane amount of straight lines here in France, but that'll put you at a big disadvantage here with this rain. The traction in the wet is so bad, and you really need downforce to make up for it.
We have a championship leader here. I think it's Hudson Poole. That he was on a lap here, but I think he's gonna start. Yeah, he's only gonna put up 144 here, so he's gonna start another fast lap. I think he put enough fuel on his car to do a couple laps here, so not a fast lap, at least not fast enough in Hudson Poole's opinion, so he's going to go in for another banger here.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a mistake or just warming up the tires. We weren't on board, so I'm not sure. But given what we know about how the track is developing, it shouldn't be a big idea for him. I think this session might come down to how much can you put on the table in your laps and just how much are you willing and able to push your car. As we have a 140.2.
Yeah,
that's a very good lap time.
Absolutely. So he's just given himself a 3/10 separation between him and Peter Giordano. Marc-Olivier Bastien, who's really been a diamond in the rough this season for Alfa Romeo. He was the first Alfa Romeo winner in Division 1. I believe it was in Portugal. And he's, so far, there's still a little bit less than under 10 minutes to do in qualifying, but so far he's put himself in a great position there.
Yeah, he has, of course. He had a not very good result in Abu Dhabi, but he'll be looking to have a great one here, and this is really good. If Hudson Poole can't manage to get up there, all he needs to be leading the championship into the break is a good result, and Hudson to not do too well, and that could put him ahead, of course. Aaron Altmaier as well is pretty close in that battle, being only 1 point behind Marc-Olivier, but he's looking really good right now, going 2/10 faster than Peter.
Duncan McCormick crosses the line in the Red Bull, and that's a 142.1, putting him in P11. Hudson Poole's going to be the next one to cross the start-finish line here, and he looks like he's going to do a 140.7. That puts him P13. Sorry, P3. My bad. I was reading it wrong. He's there in P3. So 140.7 puts him in P3. So he separates both Ferraris there in P2, P4. Good showing for Hudson Poole.
Yeah, that's a really good lap from him, but if it stays that way in the race, that could be very interesting for Red Bull. They're going to have to manage being sandwiched between 2 Ferraris, and if that stands, that could make strategy very interesting between those 2 teams.
It might make strategy even more difficult if Duncan McCormick doesn't gain positions in regards and being able to battle with the Ferraris. Hudson Poole is going to have to fight both of them off on his own, so that could be a challenge.
Yeah, but of course that is the classic Red Bull scenario. So
We've seen that once or twice before, haven't we?
yeah, just a couple times with what the past 3 teammates
Some
to,
drivers
to be
have
in that Red
not,
Bull seat.
yeah, most definitely. Some drivers have not put any times yet. We're looking at Chase Wilson, Luca Marodias, and Klinsmann. So Klinsmann's still in the pits, so I don't know what's taking him time to get out there. I think he's actually just about to go out, so I don't know if he tried to do a lap and then it just didn't work out for him. Meanwhile, Chase Wilson is just about going around the that long right hander there in sector 3, and he's about to cross the line in just a couple corners here.
And just to note, we had Frey Razzle and the Haas have a bit of an off around turn 6. Looks like he hasn't damaged the car, so he can keep going, but that's not what he's seeing. He is on little batteries, so that might have actually been a hot lap, the kind of thing that he doesn't want.
Yeah.
Scuff.
A great lap by Chase Wilson. Look at this. P4 and P5 with exact times. 140.816 between the two drivers.
Yeah, that was very good.
I think the next one to cross the line... No, but Luca Marodias is in the pit, so I think Luke Locklear is going to be the Mercedes... Oh, he's actually invalidated this time. Let's see if we could find someone who's about to post a time here. I think we're on the McLaren of Carl Behrens right now. He's just coming around turn 14. He needs to improve.
He's last place in all the people who have set times so far. Of course, Luca and Klinsmann behind him, so he needs to improve here.
And it looks like he will improve a little bit. Not very much, though. He's going to put himself up in P12, just in front of Duncan McCamick.
Yeah, and that's a second behind the next car ahead, so all these drivers behind Ear and P11 really need to find a way to push out a bit more pace.
Yeah, there's an interesting breakage in time there between, as you mentioned, Ear and P11, and then the 4 drivers behind him, they're over a second, or just about a second behind Ear, so they've got to find a whole second. And is this just a matter of setup? Is this a matter of racing craft? Well, they got 5 minutes to get their things figured out.
So what do you think we're going to be seeing strategy-wise as we come into the race? As Luke picks up a fastest Sector 2, he's going to be the next driver to cross the line, so we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, strategy is definitely going to be looking to go towards... I think the ultimate strategy really for a full dry race has to be the hard to medium strategy. The undercut is relatively powerful, especially if you could work your way through the back straight with a DRS. So that'll be an interesting strategy to go through. I'm actually a bit surprised that some of these drivers have not teamed up to maybe give themselves a DRS pull in qualifying to maybe increase their time. That might be something we'll see eventually.
I don't know if the tow is going to be too helpful here. I honestly think just being in completely clean air is going to be way more valuable. As Luke goes fastest by 7/10. That's an excellent lap from Luke Locklear, who's finally cutting a wheel this season.
Absolutely. And I mean that's a driver who's got incredible pace on track, and if I could say so myself, he knows his setups as well. So 139.5, that is an astounding lap, and we'll see if the times are really going lower and lower as the session increases. I don't know if you're noticing the same thing as I am. I think the track is...
I mean, maybe the rain has stopped.
Yeah,
so
the rain has stopped.
It's going to be evolving. Well, I'll be interested to see if anyone makes a gamble going out on soft tires.
Oh yeah, Eric McNerney with a 139.9. That definitely is a testament to how the track evolution is increasing very rapidly.
So actually, the play here might be to try and go out on soft tires. They'll slide around a bit, but to be honest, they probably be faster than the Inters if you can get a little bit of heat in them and make them work.
Yeah, so with 3 minutes and 50 seconds to go on a wet track, or a drying track now, I think we're going to see a lot of drivers maybe wait out till the last second to figure out if they should go, as we say, on dry tires. I'm seeing Freddie Rizal just coming out of the pits, and also McLaren that's going out of the pits right now. So it looks like some of them are not taking a chance, but maybe some guys and I'm thinking like one of the guys that are maybe at the bottom 10 especially, If they could
I
get
think
out
if
there
you're
really
behind
last,
Era, it's a
yeah,
worthwhile
yeah,
gamble. As Era's coming out on the
he's coming
soft
out on the
tires.
softs. That's not a surprise. Era is known to go out for some different kind of strategies in that regard. So he's probably heard you. He's probably heard you, Seb, and he's going to go on the softs, and we'll be able to see if he's able to really improve on his time.
Yeah, well, of course, that is my brilliant strategist mind. Obviously, the Alpha Pit Wall realized my brilliance. But of course, if he's mounted the soft tires, he hasn't come out yet. But if he comes out earlier than other drivers, they'll be looking to see if he slides through turns 1 and 2. If he doesn't, then the soft tires will probably be the play, but looks like no one else going out on them, so a lot of drivers are thinking that the track is still too wet.
Yeah, that's interesting. And noticing some drivers going to the pits. So Eric McNerney sitting in P2 currently. He's coming into the pits. Not quite sure he's going to have enough time to come back out and try to make a lap here. So we're going to really be keeping tabs on Era. So Era for a second, it was showing me that he was on softs, and now it looks like he's back on.
He's decided against it, but interesting that
Okay.
he's choosing to not go back out. You're really not going to
Yeah.
have too much time going out this late.
Yeah, this is a little bit too late to come out of the pits as of now.
Oh,
And a
Luca's
couple
picked up
drivers.
P2, so as it stands, it's a Mercedes 1-2 in quali.
Luca Marudias, who's unfortunately one of the drivers who's really not he has not been meeting the expectations when Locklear took him in the beginning of the season. But if he's able to take P2 and front grid Mercedes, and they're not having a great season constructors wise, as you mentioned earlier in the stream, so a P1, a possible P1 P2 start for Mercedes, they would be ecstatic for that.
Yeah, and of course, the big advantage there is if you lock out the front row, you can try and work together to just put yourselves as a wall in between other cars. And, oh, Luke Locklear's gone for an outlap on the soft tire, so he is trying to gamble. He must think his lap time is good enough that makes it worth it if the gamble doesn't pay off. It'll be very interesting to see. This could secure him pole position if it does work.
Yeah, he's
Definitely
sliding.
having to take it easy.
Yeah, he's sliding a lot, and my one and only question. Oh yeah, he's sideways. He was going very wide on the blue strips there, and kind of lost. And I think he's not gonna have enough time to go around the track entirely.
We'll see. Hopefully he will. But with 43 seconds, he definitely will not.
Marc-Olivier Bastien, P1, a 139.2, and I think we'd see a lot of times drop off here. And I think Freddie Rizal is the next one to cross the line. Freddie Rizal, a 138.9, 3/10 in front.
Invalid lap, but here comes Hudson Poole to see if he can take pole position here.
I think he's just starting his lap, actually. He's only starting his lap, and he's at the very, very end of the qualifying there. Because of the yellow flags, we don't see the time. I just saw that there's 7 seconds left into the qualifying here. So a couple drivers are now really having a shuffle here in regards to the grid because of the track evolution. It stopped raining, and now these drivers are really cutting down on their times incredibly.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Jason Pelter. He didn't manage to get across the line to do his lap. Combined YouTubers coming across the line on an invalid lap, so he won't be improving. But we have Eric McNerney in the McLaren coming to the straight here. We'll see if he can do anything, but he's already finished his qualifying session, so he's out. He won't be improving his time.
He's currently P6, and for McLaren, P5 and P6, that's a great result for them. Duncan Mechanic, I think, is the next one to cross the line here. He's sitting P16.
He needs to improve here in P16.
And that's going to put him P4 currently. So the track evolution is a huge factor with a 139.516. Next one across, I believe we're going to have to see a Ferrari. And I think it is the Ferrari of Peter Giordano.
Klinsmann puts it P3. The track is evolving here.
Peter Giordano just takes the P3 from Klinsmann there. So Klinsmann's now sitting P4. Cam Bourne at 138.5. Wow.
Poole, though. Hudson Poole takes the
Look at
provisional
that.
pole.
So in an instant, we went from a 138.9 to a 138.5, and now Hudson Poole with a 138.3 takes pole, and a lot of drivers just dropped down. Aaron Allmeyer P7. Duncan McCamick, just a couple of moments ago, was P4. He's dropped down to P11.
Yeah, and this is going to be our finishing positions to start the race with Hudson Poole on pole from Lewis Piper, Cam Bourne, and Freddie Razzle, Marc-Olivier Bastien, Peter Giordano. Oh, ooh. I'm losing it. Aaron Altmaier, Ira, Klinsmann, Luke, Duncan, and Luca. So Duncan in between a Mercedes sandwich here. Carl Behrens and Aaron McNerney in 13th and 14th. McLaren would have been hoping for a better result here. And then combined YouTuber, Nova, and the last driver who I did not read the name of. And then, of course, Cal and Maxime will be starting from the very back as they were serving qualifying bans.
Two drivers that are not serving qualifying bans who are actually very good in qualifying. So, and the last driver was Jason Pelter. Jason Pelter in P17, not something that's very usual on his part, but you know he has good race pace, so
he missed the finish line to do another lap by like a 10th. The session ended, so.
No, great result also for Freddie Razzle. He's been doing fantastic for Haas in D1. His first season in D1 after being transferred from Division 2.
Yeah, he's been performing well. We'll see if he can keep this position in the race. Of course, he's the only Haas driver tonight, so it's imperative that he gets as many points for the team as possible for their constructors' ambitions.
All right, just a reminder, we have no formation lap. And so a bit of a camera lock in the beginning, so we're going to go full broadcasters mode when the race begins here. It's going to be a fully dry session. Expect most of the drivers to be going on the hard tires. I think that's the main strategy to go for the dry session. Maybe a couple guys will be trying to gain a lot of positions early in the race with the medium tires. I don't think anybody will be going soft, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I think soft tires would be preposterous here, but of course, the drivers are going to have to be very cautious in turns 1 and 2 here. It's very misleading. It looks very wide, but closes off right after the apex, so we could see a lot of incidents here, and of course, that could cascade to everyone behind. There's not a lot of time to react here, so turn 1 could be imperative and really mix up what happens in this race.
All right, as the drivers are just about to be lined up on the grid here. The red lights are showing 5 lights. The lights are out and the French Grand Prix is underway. Hudson Poole gets a really decent start off of that. Lewis Piper is on his right-hand side going into the turn 1. Clean start so far. We're going into turn 1 here. Hudson Poole is going to be going out. Lewis Piper goes off the track, way off the track there. Went a little bit too far on the inside. Cam Bourne is also in P3. Marc-Olivier Bastien in P4 so far. A really solid and clean beginning for the Division 1 boys here. We're going down in turn 5 and into turn 6. There's a yellow flag in the back, and it looks like there was a contact, and I'm seeing Maxime Beaulieu, who's gained positions and lost some. I don't know if it was with him or Duncan McCamick, who's now sitting P19. I think it was Duncan McCamick that got caught into it. And down into the main straight, high top speeds we're going to be seeing here. And into the infamous chicane of France. Great driving, great first lap so far for the boys beginning here. No major incidents. Maybe besides a contact with Duncan McCamick all the way in the back. I don't know. It doesn't appear like he has damage, so maybe it was just a wheel-to-wheel contact. It will have to be seen.
Yeah, things are going very well here. Ira, Nova, and Jason Pelter opted to start on the medium tire, so they'll be looking to gain an advantage here. Of course, Luke Locklear going up the inside of Ira Cavallo, but he can't quite make it stick. Ira goes off the track. He should have to give that position back, but he doesn't. He keeps going. Not sure if he picked up track limits there.
There's a Ferrari that went around with Lewis Piper. Just as we were talking about the race between both of them, Aaron and Luke Locklear had a great battle in the back there, and Lewis Piper seemed to spun around, and now he finds himself P19.
Yeah, very unfortunate with the qualifying he had, as the field should start to spread itself out here. Of course, Hudson Poole has already broken DRS from Cam Bourne. That's not what Marc-Olivier Bastien wanted to see, but he's up into P3. He'll be looking to clear Cam Bourne here and try and close up that gap to Hudson. Of course, it's imperative he gets a result here to try and grab the lead going into the break here.
Hudson Poole's gotten crazy pace so far to begin this race. Let's see if he'll be able to hold it up. He's not used up his entire battery just as of yet. He's used it just enough to clear the DRS time. Yeah, he's got to be a second ahead of Cam Bourne to deny Cam Bourne the DRS opportunity, and he's got that done so far. Cam Bourne's going to try to do the same thing, but his rival's behind him, and he's not so able to do so. Marc-Olivier Bastien is known to be a very high-paced driver, and I think Freddie Rosell is going to have a peek on him. Down in turn 10, he's on the inside. And a clean move on Freddie Rosell, who puts him in a podium position.
Come up the inside here. No, he can't. Freddie covers off well. Doesn't leave the door open.
Absolutely.
Just follows through.
Stayed on the racing line. Had a great grip throughout the right-hander there. And Freddie Rosell takes that position for Marc-Olivier Bastien. Great racing from those guys.
Yeah, Marc needs to make sure he doesn't keep falling back here. Once you lose momentum on this track, you can really start falling back. But I do want to say the medium tires working brilliantly so far. Nova making up 7 positions, and Pelter made up 6 positions at one point before falling back to P16. Not sure what happens. His car is ghosted right now. Might be having lag issues. Hudson with the fastest lap of a 1:34.4.
Now could be seeing some desync issues, something we've been seeing in the last couple races here in the F122. Codemasters be codemastering, as we've seen once before.
Of course, making an excellent game. There definitely aren't any alternative games that provide you with an F1 car that is infinitely better. That would be impossible. But regardless, Hudson Poole has pulled out a very good gap here. Cam Bourne 1.6 seconds behind. He might come under pressure from Freddie Rosell here, who could really help out Hudson Poole. Fighting on this track can kill a lot of time, and if that allows Hudson to get away, give a margin of error so he can make sure he keeps it consistent and continues to pull out a bit of a gap, he'll be in a very good position to try and take a win here.
It's going to be imperative for these drivers to stay within the DRS of the driver in front of them. You don't want to end up in a no man's land, because the DRS on the back straight just gives that extra amount of speed, and you could really see easily 3 to 4 tenths gain just on DRS, and that's not even touching the ERS. So Freddie Rosell is going to be in a good position to be on the attack mode on Cam Bourne. It'll be important for him to make quick work of him if he wants to try to match Hudson Poole's pace.
Yeah, and I want to point out Luke Locklear in P7 under pressure from Nova on the medium tires. Nova needs to try and clear this car and at least get behind Ira. And when you're on the mediums, Nova's just trying to push Luke out of the way. Absolutely preposterous driving there. You can't try and take the position after doing that. That'll definitely be looked at by the stewards.
And Luke Locklear had to dump his ERS to be able to stay in front of Chase Wilson there, and that's created a gap between him and Eric Carvalho, still within DRS range, but now not in so much of an attack position so far.
Yeah, and it was going to be a tall order for Luke to try and attack Ira on the hard tires. The mediums just have so much more traction here. But what Nova realizes that he needs to try and clear Luke Locklear here to take advantage of his medium tires. He just can't be doing it by hitting him out of the way.
Freddie Rosell is gaining on Cam Bourne, but he's just not gaining enough on the chicane there, so he's going to stay behind him. He wasn't under attack by Marc-Olivier Bastien, so no, he wasn't burning any battery so far there. I don't see any position changes, so far the Division 1 drivers are really making sure they're sticking with the DRS zone of the rivals in front of them as much as possible, and just letting the tires do their work. As you mentioned, the medium tires are going to be doing a lot of work early in the race, but then there's going to become the crossover point. I would mention probably around lap 10, 12-ish, where the hards are going to be more performant than the mediums. Maybe even lap 9. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, and the mediums should be, the hards should be getting a bit faster now. Of course, they do have a warm-up period where they just need that last bit of temperature to unlock all the grip they have. As Freddie Rosell coming onto the pit straight is right on the gearbox of Cam Bourne, 3 tenths between them. This could be crucial. Freddie could go for an overtake in turn 1 here. He's right there.
He's hitting the battery.
He goes to the inside. They're going side by side. Who comes out ahead? Freddie Rosell is ahead out of turn 2. So Freddie Rosell has made the overtake, and he's going to see if he can't close out that gap to Hudson Poole. That's 3 seconds. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Fighting could be worth or lose you a ton of time here, and this has given Hudson Poole a massive advantage. Freddie's going to be under pressure from Cam Bourne going up into turn 8 here, so he needs to try and get this advantage so he can close that time to Hudson Poole.
And that puts Freddie Rizal in a very vulnerable position. He's going to have to dump it on his ERS there because he's going to be under attack by Cam Bourne and Marc-Olivier Bassin, who's going to try to be attacking Cam Bourne himself. So you got two drivers behind him, and obviously Freddie Rizal dumping his battery saved them for that one lap. So P2 currently, unless you have way better pace than everybody else, puts you in a very vulnerable position because now you don't have DRS and every driver behind you does.
Yeah, but of course, Cam Bourne has a slight ERS advantage on Freddie Rizal here, so this puts him in a good position to try and overtake him again, and this is just the best outcome that Hudson could have hoped
Absolutely.
for. He's just being allowed to drive on and not get pressure from behind because they're too busy fighting each other.
Absolutely. Eric McNerney, we saw last lap, had a bit of a moment, and he's dropped completely out behind the pack there, P19. And Carl Burns and the other McLaren in P12 has already got the 3-second time penalty. Track limits here are super important to not get those penalties. You got to be careful with those, and we've seen throughout the divisions a lot of track positions being changed at the end of the race because of them penalties.
Yeah, I mean, those track limit penalties can be very, very rough. As Jason Pelter on the medium tires, it's the fastest lap of 1:33.9.
So
that's a very good lap
P16
from
puts
him.
an absolutely banger of a lap. When we go on board, we're noticing he's got 5% ERS. So he's been burning, trying to gain positions, fighting combined YouTube in P15, who's a reserve for the Williams, and so far that is not working out for him. He's going to try it out here on the back straight.
Yeah, we had a bit of contact here, of course.
Yeah.
This is why I don't think the medium tires are the best option here, because you're stuck behind these drivers and you're not getting any advantage from them. And then once the field spreads out after the pit phase, you're going to be on the slower tire and just get picked off.
Oh, he's going to try to go on the inside there. Oh, was so close to making contact with combined YouTuber. Jason Pelter is super aggressive behind his Williams rifle. And he's going to go side by side going into turn 10. He's got the inside line on the medium tires. He should get the better grip going out there. And there he goes. Finally does the overtake on combined YouTuber. Completely emptied his DRS. And now he's trying to look ahead of him at the Ferrari Lewis Piper. Try to see if he could gain some top speed through the DRS there. But that cost him a lot of time. And as you mentioned, Seb, for those tires, for the medium tires, you end up getting stuck for a long time behind a driver and trying to pick the right position to do the overtake. That's going to cost them on tire wear.
Yeah, it is for sure. And it's not even necessarily tire wear, but what it is you don't take advantage of the mediums being faster. So you're really just wasting it. You could be doing the same thing on hard tires and still have those faster tires at the end, but now you're going to be stuck in the slower tires at the end, and you really just get picked off here. And if there's a late safety car, you're forced to pit for softs because of how cold those hards will get.
Most definitely. Hudson Poole has got a 3.7 gap in front of Freddie Rizal, and that is lap 7 already. So Hudson Poole's definitely got way higher pace than his fellow drivers. I'm currently watching Klinsmann, who's I haven't mentioned his name very often so far in the race, but it's a Williams in P10. And I mean, if you're a Williams driver in P10 in Division 1, that's so far a great result. I'm hoping, while I'm saying this, I'm not cursing him with the broadcaster's curse, but just wanted to make a quick shout out to that driver.
Yeah, that's very good for him and the kind of thing that Williams needs here. And of course, Aaron Altmaier, who has incredible pace, he's P3 in the champion, stuck down in 9th, and he's not going to be able to make any overtakes on a medium runner in front of him.
One of the key ways to be able to overtake in France is kind of playing the patient game, and you kind of hope that if you got two drivers in front of you, if you're Aaron Altmaier, you kind of wish that Locklear and Chase Wilson end up battling together, and that's when you swoop in to do your move and go for the overtake. But the entire Division 1 grid so far, they're really picking their battles very, very precariously here, being very careful on when to do the overtakes because you lose a lot of time. And with the whole pack from P2 all the way down to Maxime Beaulieu in P13, they're so close that you could really have a shuffle on the grid here if fight takes too long.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think we're just seeing the classic France Grand Prix we all know and kind of don't love. Is that looks like combined YouTuber at the back spun. Didn't think he was fighting anyone, just lost it at a turn 2. But as I was saying, the field is just kind of spread out and they're not doing too much just because you can't follow with the dirty air here. it makes any overtakes here very hard, especially through turn 6 with the dirty air. Can really tamper the run you get, and when you're in these DRS trains, you really can't get any advantage.
I want to make a quick shout out as well as we were talking about Freddie Rizal earlier. Thought he would be vulnerable to Cam Bourne in P3. So far, he's not having to dump all his battery to protect himself, and Cam Bourne has not been in a full attack mode. So, well, he kind of is. He's maybe looking at the inside there on turn 10, but just really playing patient, the patient game here. Maybe waiting for Freddie Rizal to make a mistake. That's something we've seen in past races. So that's maybe his challenge, Freddie Rizal, to have maybe a more of a mature drive and avoid any contacts or spins as he's had in earlier races. Otherwise, he's got top 5 pace so far.
Yeah, but he's under massive pressure here. Equal on battery. Cam Bourne has the DRS on this little straight. I don't know if this is the place to make the move. The second straight might be the move. Looks like Freddie managed to get a better drive out of there, so Cam Bourne will not be making an attack on him here. But yeah, the drivers just really are not able to go for moves here, and Hudson Pool continues to pull out his advantage.
Yeah, we're in lap 9, and he went from, he's already at 4.1 seconds, so clear dominance here for Hudson Pool, and we're maybe not going to talk about him as much during the race because there's not much happening on his end. He's just got so far ahead that he could just, keep driving and probably even lower his pace a little bit and keep his tires nice and tidy until he really needs them.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking to win a race, that's the kind of race you want, uneventful and in the lead. But I think Hudson Pool, if he's pushing now, can definitely think about backing off a little bit and just making sure he keeps his car in a straight line.
No tight battles so far. Like, we all throughout the other divisions this weekend, we've seen many overtakes and spins as well. So far, not a lot of action here. We're about to start lap 10. I'm pretty sure we're going to see the main part of the action either during the pit strategies or towards the end of the race.
Well, here's a bit of action for you. Jason Pelter with a 3-second penalty on those medium tires. This race is really just not going his way. He's unable to clear these cars, and now he's going to be dropping back 3 seconds at the end.
Yeah, we mentioned Jason Pelter earlier. He got past, I believe it was combined YouTuber on his end, and we didn't see the overtake, but now he's sitting in P14 and having overtaken Lewis Piper in the Ferrari. But yeah, as you mentioned, he's got the 3-second penalty, and now Chase Wilson in the AlphaTauri in P8 is the next one to get the 3-second time penalty. So already we're starting to wonder how many warnings on track limits these drivers are driving on, and if you're already getting a 3-second time penalty within 10 laps, how's it going to look for a full 27 laps?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big concern here. Chase Wilson continuing to just keep pushing his battery. Maybe those medium tires are not starting to be too kind for him. You do about 10 laps of them, I think, of the final stint, so they can't be too happy. The other interesting thing to think about here is if you're stuck in this train, when do you pit? Pitting as soon as possible and getting in some clean air, and with how tightly bunched the field is, I think you definitely can get in some clean air to try and build an advantage over here and make some overtakes. Can be really interesting. When do you think is the earliest we're going to be seeing people pit, Ranger?
I wouldn't be surprised to see. Well, it all depends obviously for the strategy depending on the tire they're on. I wouldn't be surprised to see the medium drivers pitting maybe a little earlier, maybe lap 11, 12. We'll see. If they try to go for the undercut, maybe even lap 10. The hard tire drivers, from what I've seen most of the races, lap 15 was to go to, but I think we might see a domino effect. We might see one driver dive into the pits a little bit early, and then everybody else is going to start following because they want to cover the undercut as much as possible. Unless you have, an extreme pace like Hudson Pool, where you could probably cover the undercut with an overcut of your own. So I'm thinking one driver is going to cause a domino effect here. Wouldn't be surprised to see pitting starting as early as lap 13.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The only problem, though, is it's whether or not that'll actually put you in clean air or not. If you end up coming out of the pit at the back of the pack, then it hasn't really done you much good. It's ensuring that you come out, heat up those tires, and have at least 1 or 2 laps where you're not having to fight anyone and just using pace, and that'll be very good for any drivers running a bit of higher downforce.
Most definitely. And 15 laps is like the safe moment to pit on hard tires, but those hard tires seem to really keep their grip going up easily up to 17, 18 laps. So maybe there'll be some other drivers who are thinking the overcut is going to be the way to go. Because if you do pit in lap 18, then you got your medium tires for 9, 10 laps, depending on when you pit. So that could be a reverse strategy to gain, quick momentum near the end of the race.
Maybe. I think the medium tires do keep a lot of their pace. Looks like we have someone running into the pits. Not sure who that is.
So I think we're seeing all the medium drivers. It looks like it was Eric Carvalho who was the first one to dive into the pits. So he's a medium runner into the pits, followed by Chase Wilson. Am I seeing Luca Marurias in the Mercedes? I'm trying to catch him.
Luca's gone very early to the
Very
medium tire,
early.
I
So
believe.
he's just gone on the medium tires. He engaged himself in a pit race. We're gonna see Eric Carvalho come right in front of Chase Wilson there. And so P17, P18, P19 are your drivers who are the first to pit, as Luca almost drove his Mercedes into the wall, trying to keep up pace with the drivers in front of him.
Yeah, that
Interesting
bump on the pit
strategy.
exit can be deadly. I mean, if he can manage the tires to the end, maybe it'll work. He just needs to clear these people in front of him, Nova and Ira, to have any impact, and that can be very difficult, of course, with Nova getting some DRS on Ira. It'll make him a very difficult driver to overtake. This is good for Luke Locklear. He can close up on the people ahead of him, and this will make him a bit more competitive, I think, when he comes into pit.
Looks
As
like there's
yellow
a yellow
flags are out,
flag
that
in
looks like a
sector
Red
2.
Bull off. Duncan McCamick.
Yeah, Duncan McCamick seems to have lost it. Had a spin there. Trying to see a view. I don't think there's any damage on his wing.
I'd be surprised. Yeah, no, he looks fine. Red light flashing, so he's pretty low on battery too, but obviously things aren't going his way, but luckily Hudson Poole still out there with a 4.6 second lead ahead of Freddie Rizal in P2, so he shouldn't have too much to worry about here.
Doesn't look like anybody. Oh, there's a Ferrari that's diving into the pits. I believe that is Lewis Piper. Yeah, Lewis Piper, P11 on 11 lap old hards. He's going to the pits. I was wondering if Duncan McCamick might think about diving into the pits with his hard tires. Doesn't seem like that's the case. And so Lewis Piper is going to go out on the medium tires. So yeah, we're seeing early pit stops. So, I'm thinking maybe most of the drivers are going to dive into the pits by the end of this lap.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know, it's a little early. Obviously, the undercut works here. I think it's way stronger than the overcut. But the problem is, are those medium tires going to come back at the end of the race? I think 13 is very early. We see those tires getting up into the 55 range by the end as Nova picks up, I think, another 3-second time penalty. He's been overtaken by Luca, so Luca's going to need to try and get ahead of Ira on this next straight and really use the advantage of those medium tires. He went for a very aggressive undercut, so he needs to be faster here for it to have any effect. Otherwise, he's going to come out where he started and be slower at the end.
Cam Bourne was right up on the gearbox on Freddie Rizal. Looks like Freddie Rizal didn't have the best corner there in turn 10, and he's really looking at maybe fighting him there and had an opportunity, but Freddie Rizal is really driving a great defensive line so far. He's way up on his gearbox.
But Cam Bourne is 10% less battery. He's pushing here. He might be looking to attack Freddie here, pull out an advantage before he pits. We haven't seen any other drivers come into the pits yet, so it looks like they haven't been spooked by those early people and they're sticking to their strategies. So decisions are being made.
Something I'm noticing so far between Freddie Rizal and Cam Bourne. Cam Bourne was on the start-finish straight line, and Freddie Rizal had a better exit, but without even using the ERS, completely pulled away from Cam Bourne by a solid 10th and a half. And Cam Bourne had DRS behind him, so I'm thinking maybe Cam Bourne's got a little extra downforce on his rear wing, or Freddie Rizal's got a lot less downforce on his rear wing that's causing him to get a little more top speed as more drivers are starting to collect time penalties here.
Yeah, I think this is good for Cam Bourne if he has higher downforce, though. He can just stick behind Freddie, get dragged along, and I think he goes for an undercut on this lap if that's the case, get in some clean air and really use that downforce advantage you have.
It's an advantage that we are seeing down going
Yellow
to turn 9 and
flags are
turn
out of
10.
attack. That's McLaren off.
Yeah, that's looks like Carl Barron.
Exit of 9.
The exit of 9 is a tricky well, a surprising corner. Call it that, like that. Just a bit of a bump where you think you could go full throttle, and if you don't judge it right, your car kind of bounces a bit, and you lose your rears completely. Having spun there
Yeah, well,
myself in my
also,
Division 3 race.
the way to find time there is to go over the curb on exit, but if you don't place the car perfectly, you'll bottom out and spin. So
Exactly.
it's a very risky corner. You need to be accurate. It looks like Luke Locklear and Peter Giordano have come into the pits. They're going for the undercut here. They're going to be hoping to come out ahead of Duncan McCamick, or well behind the train with the McLaren driver and at the back there. So we'll see where they end up coming out, but if they're not in clean air, this will not be a great result for them. This could ruin their undercut. It looks like they might come out in this train of people. They're going to be behind Duncan.
Yeah, they're going to come out right in front, and there's going to be some action
train
here. Peter Giordano
no.
comes out in front, and then there's Luke Locklear, who's lost some positions there.
And this is very bad for Luke Locklear. Peter's going to be dragging these guys along, and it's going to make it very difficult for Luke to overtake them. So Mercedes has really gotten screwed here by this train just sneaking up on them.
Yeah, Locklear thought he'd be sticking behind Peter Giordano and being in an attack position with him. Now his tires are just starting to get warmed up, and he's got his teammate on the back of him who's gonna go into attack mode. Lucas Meridia is gonna make a move on his team principal potentially. Looks like he's backing off and letting Luke Locklear go up in front of him. And so Locklear is gonna want to make quick work there of combined YouTuber Eric McNerney, but probably drivers in front of him. A lot of drivers on 14 lap old hards who are probably gonna think about pitting very soon. And I just jumped to the front of the grid. We're seeing Freddie Rizal diving into the pits, and Cam Bourne is staying out.
An overtake on combined. Interesting move from Cam Bourne. He's going for the overcut. I'm not sure it'll work for him, but I guess it's worth a shot at this point. You might as well do something different to try and get yourself out of the train, as Cal picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But we have Luke Locklear just behind Eric McNerney now, who's on 14 lap old hards. Luke Locklear needs to clear him and try and get up to Peter Giordano. He can get dragged with his DRS, and if Peter's pulling off this undercut, Luke could still end up winning here on these drivers who are pitted. We're going to see if they manage to come ahead here. Looks like Freddie Rizal has managed to keep position. Luke Locklear just makes it ahead of Klinsmann, so this has worked out given the circumstances for him. They were in a very bad position, but Klinsmann has split the Mercedes drivers. Luke is going to try and want to make a move on him, not only for his own positions, but to try and take some pressure off of Luke so he can make overtakes here. As Peter Giordano and Marc-Olivier Bastien, but Marc-Olivier Bastien is knocked off the track by Peter Giordano, and Luke Locklear gains a position here, so Luke's going to try and go for an overtake on Peter here, but this could actually end up working out very well for the Mercedes driver.
Most definitely, and I think they're going to go 3 wide down into the chicane and turn 7. Locklear does for a late braking there, and he's going to come out on top. Both Ferrari and Alfa Romeo's wheel side by side, wheel on wheel, and it's going to be Marc-Olivier Bastien who comes out in front of Peter Giordano. They had a bit of a contact earlier in turn 7, and there it is, Luke Locklear. What a great exit. That second lap after the pitting on the medium tires right now has given him P5. Peter Giordano is going to try to tack again on Bastien here, and he's not able to keep it sticking on turn 10.
We might be seeing what we've seen on quite a few of the Mercedes cars this weekend, where they really start to come alive on the medium tire.
Great racing by Luke Locklear. So we were wondering if the unfortunate pit strategy where he wasn't behind a train of cars maybe hurt him a little. Clearly it did not, and that really helped him out. Combined YouTubers, one of the last drivers to go into the pits on the hard tires.
He's just behind Freddie Rizal, so the overcut didn't really gain him any time, but he does have lap pressure tires, which could give him advantage by the end of the race to try and make a late move on Freddie. But Hudson Poole still has a 5-second gap, and looks like Duncan has stayed out. He might actually be trying to hold up the rest of the field to do his teammate a favor. That would be some interesting team play from Red Bull. But yeah, Duncan just working as a bit of a roadblock to stop other drivers from getting up to...
That's not going to work there, I believe, on Freddie Rizal. He's got the top-end speed. You can see the difference in speeds, and Duncan McCamick had to brake a little earlier. His tires are not as fresh as Freddie Rizal. Freddie Rizal does the overtake, takes P2. Duncan McCamick is going to have to consider pitting, and as you mentioned, probably was just slowing Freddie Rizal down a little bit, so he wasn't feeling in too much of an attack mode on Hudson Pool there. Hudson Pool has still got that 4.8-second advantage.
Yeah, we'll see. But at this point, if Red Bull's decided that Duncan's race isn't worth much, then him slowing other drivers down and maybe giving Red Bull a bit of advantage in the constructors might be worth it for them. But we're seeing the track start to get incredibly dark. Clouds are rolling in, so we may be at risk of rain here, which wasn't reported, but who knows? I mean, we hope not, but...
Looks like a potential overcast, maybe a rain, and what would happen here if the rain came to do a party? And oh, Marc-Olivier
that looks like a
Bastien!
front wing.
Marc-Olivier Bastien has DNF'd. What happened to him? We missed that part.
He made
Looks like he made a contact.
Locklear.
There's Luke Locklear who's dropping down the grid. Locklear's got no front wing. There's been an incredible contact on the main straight. Marc-Olivier Bastien has DNF'd on the left-hand side right before turn 1. That is an incredible turn out of situation. And no safety car. No safety car is going to be called on that. Not even a virtual safety car. So that means Locklear, who we just praised for hitting P5 and having a great race so far, is going to have to go pit on his fresh medium tires, get his wings his front wing fixed, probably get a new set of hards, and he's going to have to put his head down and try to gain his race there. So that's a moment we missed there. It happened really quick at an area of the track probably we just didn't expect it to happen. That'll be something the stewards will have to look at.
Honestly, don't know what happened there. It looks like either there was some kind of contact on the straight, or they bounced back from the apex of one, because they were back on that straight. I have no clue what could have happened, but that was possibly the worst place for Luke Locklear to lose his front wing. He's having to drive around the entire track, and this race that we thought might have actually been a positive for Mercedes has really started to unravel for them.
It's really unfortunate for Mercedes. If we could take the positive, Luca Marurias is sitting in P6 currently, which is much better than we've seen him do in past races so far. Although he's got a 3-second time penalty. Let's just make a quick update here on penalties. Yeah, Luca Marurias got a 3-second. Chase Wilson's got a 6-second. We saw Kyle Blevins and Duncan McCamick have 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane, so that's going to hurt them a lot. Aaron Altmaier, Kyle Marins, and Eric McNerney, the other drivers, with their first 3-second penalty, as we mentioned. And we're already, this is a fast-paced race, and we're already on lap 19 out of 27.
Yeah, we talked about rain coming. Luke might be hoping for that at this point, or for the safety car to get thrown, because he's significantly behind the rest of the field. So really all he can do now is just drive, maybe try and snag fastest lap, but he's just been put in an awful position here. That looks like Klinsmann in P5 right on the gearbox of Peter Giordano.
And he's gonna have the DRS on him on the, or he had DRS, sorry, on him on the back straight. So, and he's got 3-lap-old medium tires compared to Peter Giordano's got 4-lap-olds, and he doesn't have to worry too much about Luca behind him, which medium tires are going to be falling off shortly. I don't know if it's possible to get a weather update on your end, Seb. I don't know if there's been a change of plan in regards to potential rain at the very end of the race.
I mean, we have no data. It's just getting incredibly dark, and I think especially if we see a safety car in the next 2 or 3 laps, we could actually maybe hit rain at the very end, which probably won't cause drivers to go to the intermediates unless it's like 3 laps, but it could make people slide around, and maybe the order will change a little bit.
Definitely. Klinsmann's sitting in P5, and he's got DRS on Peter Giordano. Giordano's got his red light flashing in the rear, so that means his battery is pretty much drained. I think Klinsmann's going to be moving in position to get him a move on Peter Giordano on the Ferrari in front of him, potentially for P4, and if that's something he's able to hold, that'd be a great result for Williams.
Yeah, it would be. And Luca behind them, we questioned his strategy on pitting 4 laps early. It actually looks like it might work. Even if he stops getting dragged along by Klinsmann and Peter, he has a 5-second gap to the driver in front of him, so as long as his tires don't pop and he can keep up just being under or avoiding being a second slower than the driver behind him, he might actually end up finishing around P9 given his penalty.
Yeah, most definitely. As you were explaining that Klinsmann made the move on Peter Giordano, did the overtake right before the chicane. Clean overtake there, and Peter Giordano's his battery is really used up, and Klinsmann used his, but he's still got 10% more battery, so he's able to use it in the defending way on the main straight there in the first start-finish line there. So far, great performance there by Klinsmann. Why don't we just do a big recap on the drivers and positions? Hudson Pool's way ahead. He's got a 7.3 second gap between Fred Rizal. He doesn't look like he's letting up.
Here.
Yeah, go ahead.
We may see Aaron Altmaier go for an overtake on Ira here. Ira on those old hard tires, pitting off the mediums. Looks like Aaron just can't quite get the drive, but I think this is the battle to watch out for here at P7. Some
Chase Wilson
swerving there.
Yeah, Chase Wilson looks like he's trying to defend as much as possible from Eric Carvalho, and Aaron Altmaier is going to try to take advantage of that. Lewis Piper, who had an early spin in the race, is now sitting P10. Somewhat of a recovery drive, because at some point we saw him being straight up P19. So it's not so bad for him, but we know that's a driver that's got extra pace on him. He's got 6 laps left to make it work on his end.
Yeah, and as I said before, super unfortunate. He had a really good showing in qualifying, so to go out that early in the race and not even really get a chance is super unfortunate for him, and he's just gotten stuck in trains.
Chase Wilson cut the track again, so that's going to be another penalty on his end. And if I'm not mistaken, is that a 9-second penalty for Chase Wilson. So, if we look at the intervals, Division 1, that puts him all the way back in the back of that pack, at least, if not behind Carl Barron. So you're effectively driving P7, but with all those penalties, you could find yourself P14 easily. So it's not a good showing for Chase Wilson, unfortunately.
Yeah, but what Chase Wilson here is really helping Luca's race. As long as Luca doesn't pick up a puncture, he might even keep that position he has now.
Yeah, Luca's been
just double checking, but yeah, Luca only on 3 seconds. So if he can just keep going and run those tires, just really squeeze out every little bit he can. Is Aaron Altmaier just looked for the move, but with Chase Wilson and Ira going too wide, Ira just gets bumped off the track to try and avoid a spin, but he keeps it on.
Oh, Altmaier is gonna go into the inside. They're gonna go 3 wide on that corner. And Altmaier has to dive a little bit off track. He's gonna try on the inside of Chase Wilson there. Doesn't get it to work, and there's a little bit of a bump from behind from Lewis Piper, and that kind of makes Chase Wilson go a little bit squirrely there. Aaron Altmaier ends up taking P8 in front of Chase Wilson. Maxime Beaulieu ends up taking the position from Lewis Piper, so the mid-pack is just having a great fight currently, and it's not over yet. Aaron Altmaier does not have DRS, and there they go in the chicane. This is a recipe for chaos, and look at this. Somehow we've gotten those spins. We've got some drivers losing positions. Oh, we do have a spin, actually. Maxime Beaulieu looks like he's lost it in the end. Got a spin. I don't know if there was contact there. We're focused in front with Aaron Altmaier, and they're still battling up there. Aaron Altmaier just closely followed by Chase Wilson.
And this is the thing with France is I think we're just starting to see a bit of desperation on the driver's end, where they're not able to make overtakes because of the nature of the track, and they're trying very hard, as we see Lewis Piper and Nova really going at it here. Lewis Piper just has that little bit more grip on those medium tires, so he manages to keep it ahead of Nova. Those hard tires just not working for him, and of course Nova still has 5 seconds of penalties, so
they're going down
really just a roadblock that doesn't need much. But Nova did a very good job to squeeze Piper as much as he was allowed, but he has Pelter behind him now, putting him under a bit of pressure. Pelter looks for it, but just gets back in the slipstream, and he's going for it into turn 1. Is he going to be ahead? He's on the better tire, but no, he just can't quite make it, and he stays behind Nova going into the chicane here.
Oh, Nova goes really wide to try to block off Jason Pelter there. Jason Pelter is going to go on the inside. He gets the inside, the outside, and then the inside again potentially on Chase Wilson, and he's not going to go for that move there. Chase Wilson goes a little bit off track there, and Pelter is going to try to take advantage of that. And one of these 2 drivers is going to have DRS, and it's going to be Jason Pelter who's going to have the advantage. Does Wilson have the DRS advantage? No, he's got no DRS from Lewis Piper in front of him, and so he's got to concede 2 positions to Jason Pelter and Kyle Blevins, who kind of flew out from behind into P10, and he makes contact with Jason Pelter out of the chicane. Jason Pelter bumps him right back and takes the position back. Oh, we're going elbow to elbow here, side by side. These drivers are starting to get a little bit more aggressive. As you mentioned it earlier, Seth, they're getting desperate.
Yeah, and I don't think Nova actually gave up position there. I think that might have been clever team play from AlphaTauri to give Cal 2 positions. Pelter was too busy trying to fight Nova behind, and it just let Cal slip through, and he's on 8 seconds of penalties after he sped into the pit lane, but he's cleared 2 cars. That was a good move from him and AlphaTauri.
Talking about desperation moves, we're on lap 24. We're actually just starting lap 25 out of 27. So it's a 3-lap race right now. If there shouldn't be any safety car. Notice that the weather has also changed once again, right? The cloud seems to have disappeared, and we're back on higher temperatures on the grid. Freddie Rizal is trying to defend for his life from Cam Bourne. We haven't spoken about these two drivers so far. They kind of split away from the rest of the pack as so far, but Cam Bourne was at one moment just 3 tenths behind him, and he's going to try all that he can, and eventually probably try a desperation move there on Freddie Rizal.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Bourne needs to be thinking about a last lap overtake here. He's slightly more battery than Freddie Rizal, but he just needs to be stalking in, save that battery, put Freddie under pressure, and go for a lap 26, lap 27 overtake. I mean, I can tell you from experience, maybe waiting to lap 27 isn't the best move. It can cost you a lot, but he needs to think about making this late so he's under as little pressure from Freddie as possible. Of course, he also has a slight grip advantage being on a lap newer tires, so we could see this fight going to the very end. I think Cam Bourne is just biding his time, but in P13 we have Carl Behrens only 2 tenths behind Nova. They're going to be coming on to the pit straight here very shortly, and that's where we could see Carl Behrens send it to try and make an overtake on Nova here, but we've been seeing Nova fight things incredibly difficult, or incredibly hard, so who knows what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Chase Wilson currently sitting in P12, and he was the biggest loser, I'll say, out of the mid-pack battle between everything that was happening between Eric Carvalho, Aaron Allmeyer, all the way down to Chase Wilson in P12. The mid-pack battle was quite incredible earlier on, but now he's also got those 9-second time penalties who are becoming even more hurtful to his race, as he's basically putting himself all the way down in the grid on the post-race penalties once they will be calculated. So we'll see how that goes. Lap 25
Definitely.
in, and I think Cam Bourne was... I thought Cam Bourne was going to make a move on Freddie Rizal for a moment. He kind of peeked on the inside there, was looking to maybe outbrake him, but he's going to be patient once again. I think he's trying to let Freddie Rizal know that he's coming for him and that he will do everything to get that position. And Freddie Rizal, he's got to keep his cool right now for 2 more laps.
Yeah, he does, but Cam Bourne also needs to be careful here. He doesn't want to try and give it that little bit too much and spin in the dirty air here. Of course, the grip will be lower following that close to Freddie here, but it's also what he needs to do to make an overtake. So he's going to be playing the terrifying balancing game of not spinning, but putting your rival here under as much pressure as possible. These two have been going at it the entire race, and we're going to see this go to the last lap.
So far, they kept it absolutely clean. A lot of respect between those two drivers, but they haven't really been wheel to wheel other than the overtake Freddie Rizal did on Cam Bourne early in the race. That's something we're going to have to be watching for potentially developing in front of us over the next 2 laps, or lap 26 out of 27. Hudson Pool's way ahead at 8.3 seconds. That's going to be... I'm not going to call it now, but I mean, that's if nothing else goes wrong. He should be our race winner as it happens. Freddie Rizal is doing everything he can to get his best result he's got in Division 1 early in the Division 1 season for a first-time Division 1 driver. That would be a spectacular result for Haas if all things goes well for them. Cam Bourne also in the Alpine, they needed that result as well. And
yeah, especially with Pelter's race being slightly unfortunate.
Absolutely, and also Klinsmann, right? Klinsmann unfortunately is going to drop a little bit because of his time penalty, but we're seeing a Williams in P4, so really special race in France. You know, we had a lot of patience happening in the beginning of the race with the DRS train. Now we're seeing guys like Klinsmann and Freddie Rizal who are potentially having the best results of their life, and just before the holiday break, that's something they're going to be able to ride on the high until the Monaco in 3 weeks.
And I think that's really important mentally, is to not be demoralized going into the break and coming back. Because, I mean, if you think about ZRL at all, which probably shouldn't be thinking about it too much, but, you know, when you do, you don't want it to be all negative and thinking about what could have been and how awful the last one went. That's just going to put you in a bad mental state going into Monaco, where being as sharp as possible is going to be incredibly important.
Yeah, and with that 3-week break, obviously we expect these guys to be spending time with family, but even if Duncan, the league admin, tells everybody, you know, take the week off for holidays and don't think about F1, we know there are some grinders out there who will be spending a lot of time on Monaco who will be wanting to gain some incredible results.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I have a disease, so I never stop thinking about F1. So, I mean, I hear it in my sleep.
And here it is. Cam Bourne is completely dumping his ERS there. He's down on the back straight. He's going to go down to turn 7 here. Or should I say turn 8? He's going to try to go for braking. Side by side with Freddy. Just a little bit. Freddy's kind of pushing him into the inside.
Freddy's just ahead. Freddy, oh.
And that's not going to... He's not going to be able to make the move stick so far, but he's going to go down into turn 10. Freddy really closed the door on him there, and they kept it clean, but just gave him just enough the width for the car to be able to say that he gave him enough space.
Yeah, and we could see a drag race to the end here. Freddy really doesn't have a battery advantage, so it might come down to who is a better exit out of the final corner. Hudson Poole out of the final corner. He is, as long as he doesn't spin at the end here. Yeah, no, he's kept it in a straight line.
Hudson Poole is going to be our race winner. There's a
Cam Bourne right behind Freddy Rizal. It's going to be a drag race to the end. They're hitting battery. Looks like Freddy keeps it, though. A bit of celebratory weaving, which could actually get looked at after the fact. Klinsmann dropping down. He should stop at P5, though. Luca with a P6 for Mercedes, so that's his best result of the season, and
incredible.
The uptick I think he needed going into...
Absolutely. Even Eric Carvalho didn't have the greatest results so far this season, and he's got a P7 in the Alfa Romeo, so that's a great showing for him.
And that was very good with, honestly, him just being on the wrong strategy, I think, and hanging on to that P7 is very good with Lewis Piper behind, Aaron Altmaier in 9th, Pelter with, honestly, a decent recovery starting in, 16th up to 10th with the race he had.
Definitely.
Carl Behrens in 11th, Maxime Beaulieu in 12th, Cal in 13th, who served a qualifying ban, Duncan in 14th, Chase Wilson 15th, combined YouTuber in 16th, and Eric McNerney in 17th, and Luke Locklear is going to be coming across the line last year after having an incident with Marc-Olivier Bastien, who did not finish this race. Lucas finished 18th after he had to pit for a new wing. But that was our D1 race tonight.
The D1 race where we saw action really kind of spark up towards the second half of the race. Jason Pelter, as you mentioned, with a great recovery drive there, gaining a lot of positions into a P11, and he's going to be driver of the day here. And so Hudson Poole, Freddy Rizal, and Cam Bourne is our top 3. And we will, in a very short moment of time, we're going to have them in for our interview session.
Yeah, Ranger, let's go ahead and bring Hudson into the booth.
Yeah, he needs to have a quick interview on his end. So yeah, we're going to bring him into the broadcast booth. Doing things a little bit different to hear Hudson Poole, our race winner in France. Congratulations, and what a dominant race on your end. What made it so dominant? How come was that such a boring race for you? Starting in P1, finishing in P1, never losing that position throughout the entire race.
I don't know. I just something clicked in the race, and I felt pace. I felt like the car was stable. I did a little suspension update before the race, like an hour before, and it felt really good. So, yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Lewis Piper in turn 1. So he probably would have kept up with me, so that would have been interesting. But something happened. So, yeah, it was a good race.
Real quick here, we know you don't have a lot of time, but what are your plans for the holidays, knowing that we got a two-week break and Monaco coming in? Is that a track you're going to be practicing a lot for the full quality coming in for that race?
Yeah, I'll probably practice the week of Monaco. I'm probably going to be on iRacing, getting ready for the Daytona 24. You know, just kind of getting laps around there. So probably won't be on F1 too much, but the week of Monaco, I'll start grinding it, and I hope to do good there.
Perfect, Hudson. We're not going to keep you much longer. We know your time is short, and we just want to say congratulations again. You're the Division 1 winner once again, and our latest winner before the holiday break.
All right, thank you, man. Oh wait,
All right, we're just going to see. I have Freddie Rizal in, and normally we go 3-2-1, but I'm thinking we should go 1-2-3 given the exceptional circumstances.
Yeah,
So
well,
let's bring in Freddie Rizal, who is probably ecstatic. Freddie Rizal, P2 Division 1 for Haas. I think we saw you speaking with Hernan Trivedi there in the waiting room. What is your current emotion right now?
I'm just really proud. You know, I got P1 last week, P2 this week, and I know we've got a break a few weeks now, but we got Monaco, so I'm going to be ready for that.
Speaking of,
So we saw
Go
you
ahead, Seb.
fighting with Cam Bourne the entire race. How did you cope with having him right behind you and just trying to keep him behind?
Well, basically, we thought we had a rain in the race because I don't know the game's just bugged. So I don't know. It was so I just put low wings on. Let's just say that, and I feel like having low wings compared to other people definitely helped. And I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. Really, I'm just happy. I'm tired. Want to go to bed.
Yeah, we know that with the time difference for you, Freddie puts you in the wee hours of the morning, I believe, or very early in the morning. Last question for you, Freddie. What are your holiday plans, and how are you going to be planning your practice sessions towards Monaco in 3 weeks?
I don't know. I'm definitely gonna have a week off the game. But I think I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone else is doing this, but I think 2 weeks practice may be helpful because I've just turned no ABS off at the start of the season, and I've done
My
no practice
man.
at all. I've done no practice at all.
I
with no
mean,
ABS around Monaco,
just trail
so
break, bro.
it'd be really tricky.
Just trail break. It's that easy.
I mean, we'll see you crashing the wall in a few weeks' time then.
Probably.
Especially in Monaco with the ABS, if there's a lockup there, it's GG pretty much. Freddie, thank you again for your interview. Congratulations on that P2 finish. I'll let you go celebrate with the boys.
No, cheers for the broadcast.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, our P3 finisher. We're gonna go speak with Cam Bourne, who's spent the majority of the race in the back of Freddie Rizal, doing his best to catch up to him and overtake him. Cam Bourne, how are you feeling about your race? And walk us through your battle for P2.
Yeah, that one felt good. I was kind of playing the waiting game most of the race, just kind of sticking behind Freddie, saving up some battery, making sure to keep the gap to the car behind, and just kind of saving battery. Went for the overcut, deployed a bunch of my battery to try and get the overcut. Didn't quite work out, so basically just tried to stay behind again, save up more battery, and wait for the last lap.
Yeah, you should have called me. I would have told you last lap overtakes haven't gone well this weekend. But I mean, it was an exceptional race for you. Did you feel like you had more pace than Freddie and were just biding your time?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think DRS was really helping me out. But to be fair, I didn't get dropped out of that window, I don't think, once. So I think we had pretty similar pace.
All right, Cam. We got a 3-week break for the holidays, and some drivers are taking a week off of F1. Some are absolutely not. Seb mentioned earlier he's never going to take a week off of F1. He's going to be grinding on Monaco for 3 weeks straight. What's your strategy coming into the next race in 3 weeks?
I haven't really been able to play that much recently, to be honest. Just busy with school and stuff. So now that I'm off, I'm definitely going to take that time to get some practice in. Especially since the game bugged today and I lost all my setups for every track, so I'm gonna have to do some work to get some setups back.
Hopefully, luckily you have plenty of time to get that done. Cam Bourne, congratulations on your P3 in France. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
An exciting race, and a race that needed a lot of patience in regards to DRS trains, but in the end, we saw a lot of action, a lot of battles, and that gave us a great finish there. Seb, final comments on the race?
I mean, it was the French Grand Prix, so that considered it pretty good.
I'll agree on that. Most definitely. I'll take a moment real quick for the people still watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you've not done that yet. We're going to see you in 3 weeks on January 8th for the Division 1. Obviously, they're during the weekend, so Division 4 on Friday, Division 3 and 2 on Saturday. Division 1 will be raced on Sunday the 8th for the holiday break. I want to wish everybody a great holidays and a happy new year to our followers and our fellow drivers at ZRL. We'll see you next time.